It's time for the podcast, which is all about the world of marketing on television through TV shopping networks, infomercials, and commercials. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Shawn Wilsey, and for over 30 years, I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, and now I want to be your guide into this world, explaining how it works, why it works, what doesn't work, and introduce you to the people who are making it the success that it is today. Happy 2022, first episode of the new year, and the first time I got to read my new script that says, and for over 30 years. I have broken the 30-year mark, a milestone I'm frankly very proud of. Very few people in this industry ever get to do something that they love to begin with, let alone for 30 years, minus, again, 9 months where I had to write out a non-compete clause in a previous contract. But otherwise, no, 30 years on television, in your home, selling you name it. And I can safely say you name it. I have pretty much done it all. Which actually just made me think of something, and I'm getting my pen out because I need to arrange an interview with Kimberly Wells, who used to be employed by NBC ShopHQ. And if you know the last show she was doing there, you know what the topic of this podcast will be. But anyway, we are back. And I'm actually coming back a little bit earlier. I wasn't going to come back till February and do an official 30th anniversary kickoff show and all kinds of things. But as a podcast that is dedicated to, as we talk about this world of DRTV, when things happen that are in the news, as Christopher Glenn used to say. Pause while people say, who the hell was Christopher Glenn? If you're my age, you remember. And but we need to discuss some things that are going on in the news with regards to this industry, and unfortunately not maybe the happiest news, which incidentally will lead us to a very, I think, a fun ending to the show, because it was going to get kind of serious here, and so I thought we have to end on a high note, so we have something kind of fun and I think very funny coming up at the end. But the polar opposite of that is something that unfortunately happened just before Christmas to QVC. Both of the top stories today were national news, and just in case you weren't aware of it, QVC suffered a terrible fire, destroying one of their distribution centers.
Days before Christmas, tragedy at this North Carolina distribution center for the TV shopping network QVC. One day after a massive fire tore through the building, authorities finding the body of 21-year-old Kevon Ricks. His family says Ricks had just started working at the facility 3 weeks ago and leaves behind a 1-year-old son.
I've been crying all day.
It's the victim's aunt.
I'm not hurt for just myself, not just for his mother, not just for his son. I'm hurt for my son.
At least 75% of the building is destroyed. North Carolina's governor tweeting, "I've been in contact with local and state officials about that tragedy and taking steps to help families hurt by the loss of more than 2,000 jobs." Kevon Ricks' family frustrated after authorities initially said all employees inside the center had been accounted for.
I'm hurt for people that know he's a humble guy. Like, he's a great person.
QVC says it's not yet sure of the impact the fire may have on the shipping and delivery of products this holiday week, tweeting, "We are currently focused on our team. The cause of the fire remains under investigation." Christine Sloan, ABC News.
Heartbreaking on so many levels, and I wanted to play that particular clip because, again, it focused on the gentleman who unfortunately perished in this tragic fire. Because originally the original news stories were everybody made it out alive. They assumed that everyone made it out, and, well, as we know, that was not the case. It's always sad in times like this because, again, for QVC now, they still have a business to operate. Life still has to go on. Our hearts break, and our prayers go out to the family of the lost in this tragedy. And for those that are now looking for jobs, but from a business standpoint, QVC has to already get the wheels in motion. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And unfortunately for 2,000 people, the answer has been layoffs. 2,000 employees. QVC has told state officials that it will close its distribution center in Rocky Mount. And a state warrant notice lists the closure as permanent. The 1.5 million square foot facility was heavily damaged by fire. It was December 18th, by the way, when the fire was, killing 21-year-old Kevon Rick, an employee. QVC said 1,953 people work at the center. It says employees will start to be laid off beginning February 1st. And then again, but here's where QVC has to do the recovery of their of their business and of how they're perceived by the public. One of my favorite classes that I took in college under marketing was how businesses recover from tragedy. Tylenol poisonings in the early 80s, Nestle milk scandal in India, and the list goes on and on and on of companies that have to recover. Now, this is by no means as serious as that, but QVC still needs to have an image, and they need to look out for that image. And so they're handling this beautifully. Benefits have been extended to QVC employees. Extended shutdown pay for the Rocky Mountain team through February 1st. After February 1st, separation benefits will begin for impacted team members. All the team members are eligible for at least 4 weeks of separation pay or a lump sum equivalent. Team members enrolled in our benefits plan will have continued coverage until the end of February, and then they'll be eligible for COBRA. So QVC's handling this very well from a corporate standpoint, from a business standpoint. And in fact, the latest news on that is QVC has partnered to help warehouse employees out of a job following a fire. So they're even taking the extra step of teaming up with people to run a job fair so that their employees who are suffering hardship can hopefully find a new job. So I just, tragic story. But QVC is trying to do their best, and I have to applaud them for that, for taking these steps, because many companies, one of the factories, remember, that was destroyed by the tornado of a few weeks ago in Kentucky, I think it was the candle factory. They basically have just kind of washed their hands, walked away and said, yeah, you know what, yeah, we're rebuilding down the road here, and, sucks to be you if you were in the factory that was destroyed. Too bad, so sad. They're going to have a very tough time recovering from that, but QVC is doing a beautiful job as far as recovery from this goes, because you don't always necessarily want to make it onto the evening news, no matter what your business is. It happens that we have two stories that made it onto the news over the past little bit, one involving QVC and the other involving ShopHQ. Now, you're about to hear from a gentleman by the name of Dan Abrams. He was one of the founders of Court TV back in the 1990s. He is now working for the cable news channel News Nation, and he has an evening 1-hour show, 7 o'clock, whatever it is, on News Nation. Let's see what Dan has to say.
Time now for our Mediaite Moments, where we check in on the day's bias, buzz, and bull in the world of cable news and beyond. With the Omicron variant raging, so many experts recommend home testing to assess your risk to others, except somehow they're in extremely short supply. Long lines can be seen throughout the country at testing sites and in locations that have the kits for sale.
Good point.
Who knew that of all places, you can find them on a home shopping channel called ShopHQ?
We are so excited about our Flow Flex at-home antigen test. Set of 5 for under $120 that premiered earlier today. We are the only home shopping network to offer this test, and quantities are limited again, everybody. These types of tests are sold out.
That's right. With the tests so hard to find, somehow ShopHQ has them and are selling them at a premium of $25 per test. Is coming
Listen,
from.
I got to point out, I'm not laughing at the story. Believe me, it's just Dan Abrams has my kind of sense of humor, and so just the way he's delivering this. It's. By the way, we are not a political show, because he kind of twists this into a political thing, and so I'm not here to comment on that one way or the other. But I do like the inflections in his voice and the smart-ass way he's delivering this. We continue.
Network, better known for selling other types of products.
We have a beautiful cubic zirconia that, once again, the facets in this piece, no one will ever question whether it's a real diamond or not.
So if you are somebody who has become more sedentary, right, this is something that is a must. You have to get this.
She's on one of those vibrating
and you get no
footboards.
chemicals, no bleach, no ammonia, but still that hardcore cleaning.
And to make sure you know that they are serious, they even had a doctor on hand to lend it credibility.
Dr. Terry Dubrow, double board certified plastic surgeon, world-renowned plastic surgeon.
I want to thank ShopHQ because this is such a critical thing for every one of you to have home. Do you know what this is? This is a home antigen COVID test.
Wait, a plastic surgeon hawking public health tests? And not
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. I got to pause this for a second because, again, I do have to point out, about a month and a half or so ago, I do remember, and I think I might have mentioned this on a previous show, one of the hosts on the network that I don't know. It's one of the hosts that, because I know some I don't, and so I don't know the background of this young woman who was hosting the show at the time. And she was talking about getting medical advice or needing medical advice, and she said, and so, of course, the person I want to turn to is Dr. Dubrow. A reality star plastic surgeon. Yeah, that's who I'm getting my medical advice from. So, but anyway, it continues.
any plastic surgeon, a double board certified one named Terry Dubrow. Name sound familiar?
What are you doing here?
Came by to say hi. Do you have a few minutes for me?
I do.
Yeah. How's your day?
It's better now that you're here.
Oh, that's nice. So
what's happening?
Yes, he is a plastic surgeon on the reality show The Real Housewives of Orange County. So, of course we can trust him about the latest COVID information and testing. Look, I don't blame the doctor or ShopHQ for selling the test, but when we're close to entering our third year of the COVID pandemic and a home shopping channel with a Real Housewives doctor is your best bet for a home testing kit, well, that is pathetic.
And by the way, honestly, that is the takeaway from his take on the story. The media, when you view the print of this, talks about how ShopHQ has marked these up 140%. His takeaway is we can't get these, and so it's sad that we have to go to a cable shopping network to get them. And I'm not going to comment on that one way or the other. I will point out, and this is where, if you're a viewer of TV shopping shows, you need to be a savvy shopper. Set of $519. That's $20 a piece, roughly. A little bit more than that, I guess. $22 a piece. Would that be right? I didn't do the total calculation, but it's over $20 a piece. They are on Walgreens' website for $10 a piece. I've seen them in Walgreens store, the exact same one, for $10 a piece. So you should always shop around. The testimonial that they had, one of their hosts, he only played part of that clip, incidentally. In the whole clip of them selling the test, another one of the hosts comes out and says, I spent $50 for one of these. Remember, that's a testimonial. A testimonial is the lowest form of product evidence that something works. It's used by everyone, every network, every company, but it's an unverified statement. There's been no way to authenticate that. And is it an apples-to-apples comparison? So anytime you hear a testimonial, whether it's a host or not, always take it with a grain of salt. Are they price gouging? I don't know. I can find the tests on many websites for $10 a piece, so I don't know if it falls necessarily into the category of price gouging. The people that I've seen sell them for hundreds of dollars, price gouging for sure. At the end of the day, ShopHQ has bills to pay. That good doctor is not doing this for free. That's something else to always consider. If you ever see a product sold on television, is there a guest behind it? Because believe me, if there's a celebrity guest, I always say they're not staying at the Motel 6 and getting their food at Denny's. They're at the Grand Suites. They are getting catered meals. Now, he's doing his show from home. Have you ever seen his home? It's a mansion. That ain't cheap. So there's all these other bills that need to be paid. So, frankly, if ShopHQ needs to pay their bills at the end of the day, they have to charge $120 for these. So, God bless them. And by the way, I will point out, that story just came out from Dan Abrams a few as we're recording this a few days ago, it is old news. Reading from a press release January 5th, 2021, so over a year ago, iMedia Brands, the company television shopping network ShopHQ, have become the first and only shopping television networks to offer an FDA-authorized at-home COVID-19 test to consumers in the United States. So they actually started doing this a year ago. So it's not the newest news ever, but, you know, they're sold out on their website, so it seems to have worked for them. I said I wasn't going to end on a downbeat, because so far, not the happiest thing in the world. So we're going to totally jump and do a 180. These are some clips I have been dying to play forever and just trying to find a way to work them into the show somehow, of pitchmen, because, you know, I'm obsessed with pitchmen, product pitchmen, people who do a great job pitching on television. And in the 70s and 80s, there was no better product pitchman on television than Orson Welles. Orson Welles, the legendary director, actor, Shakespearean actor. I mean, he has a resume that you would be very hard-pressed to find any modern-day actor top. Was one of the best pitchmen on television, and companies paid very good money for him to pitch their products. Here is the completed commercial for a champagne, Paul Masson champagne. Let's listen to the completed commercial.
The taste of French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence. There's a California champagne by Paul Masson, inspired by that same French excellence. It's fermented in the bottle, and like the best French champagne, it's vintage dated. Paul Masson's superb taste shouldn't...
Vintage 1978. I think the commercial came out about 1978. So yeah, that's really vintage dated. Oh boy. The video that goes with this is of a bunch of people at a party. In one of the opening shots of Mr. Welles, you see him sitting at a pub table with a gentleman who's holding the bottle, getting ready to cork it, and a woman next to him, but he is seated.
Bird taste shouldn't be too surprising. This champagne doesn't come from France, but it was created by a man who did, Paul Masson. Paul Masson will sell no wine before it's time.
Just caught the copyright on that at the very end, 1980. I think that says 1980. So yes, vintage 1978. Ooh, wow. That catchphrase, though, will sell no wine before it's time. That was one of those that became part of pop culture. People would spoof it. Comedians would make fun of it. Everybody knew that catchphrase. But Orson Welles was one of the great product pitchmen of his time. However, there, and some of you might have heard this, but it's always good to play again. You know, that's the finished product. I work in the world of live television. I work in there's no retakes. Orson Welles is used to film. He is used to, 100 takes if necessary. Well, let's play some of the outtakes, because, boy, he sounded in top form, didn't he? Sounded great. Well, let's just say Mr. Welles might have had a little sampling of some of the champagne before you heard the final take.
Turn camera.
Mark.
102, take one. With overlap, action please. Action also, please.
Yes.
You just do anything?
No, sorry, cut.
What that was a long shot of the gentleman holding the champagne that I mentioned, the woman standing next to him, as Orson Welles is just sitting there staring off into the distance. I guess he thought that gentleman was supposed to do something. Let me back it up a second here, and we'll go to the next take. I'm sure the next take will just be smooth as silk.
Right, cut. Camera rolling. 102, take two.
The French champagne.
Oh,
has always been celebrated for its excellence.
No, the audio is not playing poorly. That's him saying the lines you heard clear as day a moment ago. Here we go. And let's just back this up a second so we can hear that. I love that opening. I might have to replace something on my sound pad. That might have to be a keeper for 2022. Oh, One more time. Then I promise we'll play it.
Ah, the French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence. There is a California champagne by Paul Masson, inspired by that same French excellence. It's fermented in the bottle, and like the best French champagne, it's vintage dated. So Paul Masson.
Cut. Jill, wonder why. You know, they always say working with kids and animals are the worst things for a director. The director of this had to be thinking, I'm working with a drunk Orson Welles. I would take a kid or an animal any day of the week. What you're listening to, by the way, is also another reason why I stopped drinking. I don't drink anymore, don't touch the stuff, and it's fear that, well, I would sound like that to anyone, let alone on TV. I've never shown up to work to do my job. I, by the way, have worked with people who have shown up, obviously having had more than a few, especially when I used to do the 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Maybe I'll share some of this on my 30th anniversary show. But yes, I have had people show up to do live TV drunk. Take 3.
102, take 3. Action, please.
Ah, the French.
Oh, that's even better. Okay, take 3. Hang on, here we go again.
3. Action, please.
Ah, the French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence. There is a California champagne by Paul Masson, inspired by that same French excellence. It's fermented in the bottle, and like the best French champagne, it's vintage dated. So Paul Masson.
God, I guess. There's nothing usable there. Nothing. I'll put this on my YouTube so you can see this too. I mean, it's up there already, but on other people's YouTube, but I'll get it up on mine because that really is, you have to see it. And these poor background actors, because behind them are some couples, because they're obviously, it's like a little party. Everybody's dressed nicely. The men are in suits, women in dresses. What has to be going through their heads? It's like, here's the legendary director, drunk as a skunk, and we just have to pretend like there's nothing wrong. The guy holding the bottle of champagne and the woman next to him. It's just, they have to just go about this because, believe me, they want this on their resume. They're thinking, this is never going to see the light of day. But again, one of the legendary pitchmen, Orson Welles, may he rest in peace, he sold everything on television, but especially known for that. Before we officially close things, I do want to point out my official social media, because I spent the better part of last night, as I'm recording this, clearing up imposters on Instagram that are pretending to be me. So the only official Instagram for me you can find by searching SWILSIE. S. Wilsey. That's the only official one. And there's lots of photos there. You know, you can, the fake ones, there's, you know, like one picture that they stole from my Facebook or somewhere. But it's one of lots of pictures. SWILSIE. That is the official way to find me on social media. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcast so that you never miss a show. Plus, you can listen to the archive of past shows when you subscribe on one of the podcast apps. I hope you check me out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Shawn Wilsey. Full name, SHAWNWILSIE. Thank you for downloading this edition of Are We on the Air? This has been a King Bobby production.
That's why we give such bargains. Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such... Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.